Bam! Welcome to Under the Gun. Hello, guys. How are you? Under the Gun here each and every Wednesday night, presented by Crush Live Poker. I'm David Tuchman, your host. For those of you who join us live, come over to the YouTube chat and ask me questions. Let's talk. It's a great day for a call-in. Next week's show, pretty excited. Dan Fleischman will be joining us. We'll be talking all sorts of stuff, but we're spending a lot of time on cryptocurrency. He is in the middle of all that, and he will explain to us what exactly is going on with all this stuff. Bitcoin, by the way, currently at, let's say what it's at right now. Ethereum is at 295, and that's obviously it's been seesawed. It's gone up as high as 400, down to as low as like 130 a little while ago, back up to 295. Bitcoin tested some lows, and it is back up to $3,334. So we're going to get the skinny on cryptocurrency. I have been an avid investor for pretty much my whole life. It's just in my blood, and it's something that my dad taught me at a young age. I still remember buying a company called Navistar when I was a young kid. And I did my research, I did what my dad told me, and I bought this stock. I remember I bought 100 shares of Navistar at like 8 and change. And it went up to 11 and change, and I sold it, and I felt like people feel when they win the lottery. It was the coolest thing I've ever done. I was watching it in the papers. I mean, there was no internet or anything. So I was watching it in the papers to see it go up an eighth of a point, down a quarter, up a half. So excited. I believe that company has changed its name to International Harvester now. Basically, it's a big truck company. What I was thinking when I was 8 years old, I don't know. But I did my research, and I decided to buy that. So I have been investing my entire life. And I remember I was in Barcelona, and I talked to Jesse Sylvia at length about cryptocurrency and about Ethereum. And I've talked to as many people as I possibly could about cryptocurrency. But I thought it might be good. I kind of was looking at myself, and I go, you know what, I'm going to meet Fleischman, because he's the guy, I want to say, 7 months ago. We're Facebook friends, and I see him post something that Ethereum is going to explode. And it was at like $18. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe I should, why not, whatever, throw $1,000 at it. Money that's just like, if I lose the money, it's not the end of the world. Fleischman seems like a pretty smart guy. Why not? Anyway, it went from 18 to 28 the next day, and I, moronically, stupidly, thought, well, I missed that. Oops. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I was so curious. I'm so intrigued by it from not only an investing standpoint, but also from like a worldwide usage standpoint. And what exactly it does, what it means. It is difficult for a lot of us to understand. Although, if you think about how currency works in general, the American dollar or any other currency that's backed by a nation, you'd probably hurt your brain when you started thinking about that as well. Anyway, Dan Fleischman will be on next week. I have no planned guests on this week. So today is a really, really good day to call in. You can call in 323-825-5134. As always, if you want to get a hold of me, you can tweet me at Tuck on Sports. Send me an email, davidt@crushlivepoker.com. Send me a message over on Slack. Crush Live Poker has a community over there, as well as sending me a direct message over on crushlivepoker.com. If you want to check out Crush Live Poker, you can. You get 1 month free using the code DTA408. I got a couple of hands I want to talk to you. I want to talk about the summer. Last week, I came back and I spent a lot of time talking football with Dave Richards and didn't really jump back into poker. So this show is going to be much more poker-centric. Although, as you guys know, I'm a huge football guy. Training camps are in. A lot of teams are actually playing their first game today or this week. So, football and DFS and fantasy football and betting, that is going to be part of it. 89120 ABC, that is Sandy Joy. What is up, Sandy? How are you? Good to see you. My newborn son, is now 8 weeks old and doing very well. Still dealing with some allergies issues. So we're still trying to figure out exactly what it is that my wife is eating that he's allergic to. Nonetheless, though, my wife has taken one for the team, so to speak. She has cut out gluten, dairy, soy, and nuts. The next time you try to eat something, try to figure out if it's gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, and soy-free. And find out exactly how much food you can eat. Yeah. Wife's not enjoying it, I'm not going to lie. What's up, NM Grinder? NM Grinder. I like to call you like New Mexico Grinder, just because I don't really know what the NM stands for, and I just assume that's what it stands for. But what is up, my man? Peter O'Neill, how are you, sir? Says going to be in LA for a few months, Tuck. Hope to get to play with you at Hustler a bit. I'm there. I am generally there 4 days a week. I'm going to have to juggle something, and I don't know what. I've got to talk to my bosses over at Hustler. Normally, I'm there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday days from about, say, 10:15 in the morning till about 4. That is my general schedule. But with a newborn and with my wife going back to work in 2.5 weeks, something has to give because somebody has to be home with the baby. Apparently, it is frowned upon to leave a newborn home alone. Come on. These newborns have to toughen it up. It's ridiculous, I tell you. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, though, so we have arranged. My first son was in daycare pretty early, like when he was 3 months old. And the same thing is going to happen to Silas. We're going to put him in daycare 2 days a week. So which means, and those will be Tuesday and Thursdays, which means I'll still play. I'm definitely going to play on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I always take Wednesdays off to kind of get errands done and prepare for my podcast. So I've got to figure out Monday and Friday. Maybe I'm trying to try to convince the Hustler to allow me to work 1 or 2 nights a week. If that's not the case, then what I'll probably end up doing is just playing 2 days a week at Hustler and then just playing poker on my own 1 or 2 nights a week just to get my poker hours in. 89120 Sandy Joyce says, please talk about Poker Go. Not a fan. I miss you very much. Brief comments, please. Poker Central. You know what? I'm going to get into the World Series. I want to talk about, like I said, I'm going to talk a lot about poker here, and I will answer your question. I promise. Sandy says, prefer the old format. This format has less coverage. And I heard a lot of that. I got a lot of tweets of that. Now, I know I pride myself on being a straight shooter. But obviously, at the same time, I think you'd appreciate my situation that Poker Central and Poker Go are my employers. They pay me. So, during the summer, while it's going on, I've got to be smart. You don't trash your employer and then expect to keep a job. That's just common sense. That said, I do like to tell it like it is. I didn't want to jump to any conclusions. I thought it was very exciting. I remember I talked to Maury, so this is funny. So I got a phone call from Maury. We'll take you back to the beginning. My wife and I are wondering what's going on for the summer because we know we're expecting a baby boy, and we know we're expecting him around, mid-June. So we're really trying to figure out exactly, am I going to Vegas? Am I not going to Vegas? If I go to Vegas, I've got to start hiring some, help for my wife to make sure, whether it's flying out her mom, flying out my sister, hiring a nanny, hiring a doula, whatever it might be. I have to, make arrangements for that. So my wife and I were kind of I don't know what to do. I remember I called Seth Polanski, who is my direct boss over at the World Series of Poker. He always deals with the media, and he dealt with the live stream for the last few years, ever since I've been there at least. And Seth was like, I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's still up in the air. We don't know. Got to a point where I was like, maybe it's just not happening, or if it does happen, it won't happen with me. I don't know. And I was obviously disappointed, but I was like, okay, silver lining, I get to stay home with my baby, which is cool. And then I'm at the Hustler, and I get a phone call from Maury Escandani. Maury is probably my favorite person in all of poker, and certainly, if not my favorite, top 3. The guy is absolute class. I've had him on the show before. We've had him on the podcast before. I know Doug Polk has had him on the show. No, I'm sorry, Joey Ingram had him on his show. If you're not familiar with who Maury is the CEO and founder of Poker Productions, which is a company behind the World Series of Poker on ESPN, Poker After Dark, High Stakes Poker, the NBC Heads Up National Championship. They took over the World Series of Poker from 441. The reason they're such a good company and the reason they put out such great stuff is everybody in that company plays poker. They love the game. They're passionate about the game, and they come at it from a poker player's perspective. Maury has the utmost respect from everybody. I remember I heard Phil Hellmuth talk about it actually during the World Series, on the ESPN coverage, when they were talking about possible Hall of Famers, and he said Maury deserves in. He's my vote. I mean, Phil Ivey was the obvious no-brainer. More on Devilfish in a little bit, but to me, we need to get more of the founders in there. And Maury has done as much for this game as anybody else. Great story about him and Henry Orenstein. Henry Orenstein, who I've also done commentary with, is the founder of Transformers. Henry Orenstein is also the founder of the Whole Card Cam. He and Maury built the first poker table that had cameras in it, so you could see the cards. The company in England asked them to use it, and this is where, this is mid-90s, maybe even like early 90s. Maury and Henry go back a long time, and Maury has this table still. So you think about what he has done for the game from a player's perspective and from a producer's perspective. As far as I'm concerned, he deserves in. Anyway, so Maury calls me up and says, "Tuck, you busy this summer?" And at this point, I'm like, okay, I guess, I'm waiting for okay, what are we doing this summer? And he goes, okay, because Maury they actually did produce the live streams the last few years. They have a great group of Latvian guys they bring in to do the live stream. And then Maury and George Maxwell. George works with Maury for many years. They produced the show, and I've done the commentary on it. Seth obviously does the World Series of Poker side of it. Anyway, Maury says, "Hey, you free this summer?" I go, "I'm ready, buddy. What's up?" He goes, "Well, all sorts of changes. Poker Central has come in, and as of now, you guys know the story. Poker Central came in with ESPN and brokered a 4-year deal, committing them, by the way. They are committed to producing the next 4 years of World Series of Poker coverage, including expanded coverage of the main event from day 1A on, which is something we've just never seen. We saw that in 2011, but even then it started on day 3. So this was all of day 1s, day 2, day 3, day 4, all of it. Okay? Now, I know there wasn't coverage every single day, but I was like, wow, that's pretty phenomenal. Maury went on to say that, Lon was going to be doing the commentary for it, and that they wanted me for the break desk, which is Kara Scott's original role. And then I was quiet for a second, and Maury let it soak in, and then kind of said to me, and we're friends, and he said to me, "How does that make you feel?" And I said, "I'm not going to lie. I said, I'm a little disappointed." I said, the Black Booth mojo, commentating on the World Series of Poker, commentating on the World Series of Poker live streams for the last 6 years has been something I've looked forward to and something I've embraced for, in an amazing way. I wouldn't leave my family for 5 weeks every summer if it wasn't something that I absolutely loved and I was passionate about. So I love it. You guys know this. If you're taking your time to actually listen to a podcast or watch this show, you know how much this means to me and how much I love it. So I said, "Maury, I don't want to lie." I said, "I'm a little disappointed. I enjoy doing commentary." So I went home and I talked to my wife about it and everything, and I kind of got to the point where I was like, well, listen, I'm an incredibly lucky person, and here is a production company and the World Series of Poker, the biggest name in poker, and they want to pay me to host a break desk. Wow. When I started looking at it from a different perspective, and then I kind of looked at it and I said, you know what, if I embrace this, I can't go into the summer kind of being disappointed, because it'll be a really long summer and I won't enjoy it, and it'll show. So instead, I kind of looked at it a different way, and I said, you know what, this is a great opportunity for me. I'm going to be on camera. I haven't been on camera a ton since I was covering the NFL and NASCAR for Sky Sports. And I have a lot of on-camera experience, but I haven't done that in quite a while. So I was like, this is actually a really good opportunity. Everybody knows I do commentary. I already do the commentary for 888, and it turns out I did a few shows this summer of commentary. So I kind of said, okay, let me just run on it. It's funny. There's a book, The Art of Happiness, that I read, and it talks about. Pardon me, I've got a little bit of a cold, so still lingering cough. Tyler Fritz says, hey, I'm trying to call in. Can't get through. Everybody look good on your end. Yeah, it is. I don't know what's going on. Let me see what's going on here. Once again, try to call in, guys. The number's 323 825-5134. We can talk poker, talk football, talk about what I'm talking about here. But anyway, let me finish the story if I can. So anyway, the Art of Happiness is a great book, and in it, the author speaks about how jealousy and always wanting more. And I think there's a fine line between never being satisfied and always pushing yourself to get more, to be a better poker player, to get a better job, whatever it might be. There's a fine line between that and always being jealous of your neighbor, so to speak. Because you'll always find a neighbor that has a bigger car and a nicer house and a better looking wife or husband. And if you always find yourself comparing, if you always look at yourself and you compare it to what you don't have rather than what you have, you'll find you're always disappointed. I mean, I've got a good buddy of mine who's an editor, and he was an editor for Grey's Anatomy for many, many years. And I played poker with him and his friends. And sure enough, there was one guy at the table who was an editor for Academy Award winning movies. So, and then by the way, there's somebody who wants my friend's job. And of course, my friend wants that guy's job. And I'm sure that guy probably wants to be a director, and he wants somebody else's job. It's funny, even when I was doing commentary for the World Series of Poker, when I was doing shows for GSN, I wanted to cover the NFL. When I was covering the NFL for Sky, I wanted to cover the NFL for Fox Sports. And I'm sure if you're the third team on Fox Sports, you want to be the first team. And there's nothing wrong with having that drive. There's nothing wrong with having the motivation to keep pushing yourself. But I think if you're always comparing yourself to your neighbor, you can really put yourself in a tough spot. If you're always thinking about what you don't have rather than what you have, life can be tough. So I kind of tried to embrace the role I had this summer as like, okay, look at what you have. They are paying me to talk about and analyze poker. How lucky am I? So I looked at it that way. I also really wanted to give Poker Central, Poker Go, and everybody over there, and Maury, I wanted to give them a chance. I know there was less coverage this summer, and I'm not going to bullshit you guys. I was disappointed with the fact that we didn't do many mixed games, and I think that was probably a mistake on their part. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. This is the first year they've done it. You know what I mean? They put a lot of money into this project, a lot of money, trust me, a lot of money into this project. They decided, okay, we got to do the whole main event. Well, if we're going to do the whole main event, we got to cut down on something because the main event's like 9 days, 10 days. So what are we going to cut down on? So they decided to cut down on some of the mixed games. And obviously that disappointed a lot of people that were very, very familiar with what they did in years past. But I give them credit for trying something, trying to figure out a way to make this business model work. Because very few people in poker have figured out a way to make poker on TV a plausible thing. It either too dependent on one sponsor. It's either like when before Black Friday happened, or it is they're all time buys where the shows you see on TV back then were bought. Full Tilt would pay money. They actually bought the time from the network and then put the show on, and then they would sell the advertising themselves. They paid for that. The network didn't come out and get that. People don't realize that a lot of this was time buys since 2008, 2009, and that was even when poker was in its heyday. So once Black Friday happened and Full Tilt vanished and Poker Stars had no reason to really market in the United States, that money vanished, and it illustrated a huge problem for the poker world and the poker television world in the sense that it was far too reliant on one sponsor or two sponsors. And so I give Carrie Katz and the rest of the guys at Poker Central and Poker Go a ton of credit for trying something. Did they make mistakes the first year? Undoubtedly. But let's give them a chance. Okay? And I'm not just saying that because I work for them. Okay? Honestly, I probably wouldn't address it at all if I was really, really disappointed with everything. But I think, there were actually efforts during the summer, by the way. Because I remember I got a call from Maury asking me, hey, can we cover the 10K the different mixed events? And I was like, hey, I'm game, let's do it. And then it just logistically could not work out. So the 50K Players Championship, I think this will be the last year it's not covered. I think it'll definitely be covered next year. I think they learned from that as well. So I think like any new company taking on a huge financial endeavor, and from a production standpoint, a huge endeavor, let's cut them some slack and let's see if they figure it out. At the end of the day, you had Ali Najad, who, while I want his job, I'm not going to lie, I love the guy, and he does a great job. I have nothing but good things to say about him. He's a class act, and he's great at what he does. Nick Schulman, who I've worked with many, many times in the live stream, is fantastic. Lon and Norm are legends, okay? Is it a different broadcast than it was when it was me? Of course it is. But as you know in life, the only constant is changed. That's the only constant. Sandy says, great attitude, understand, but miss your commentary. I appreciate that. Honestly, I got hundreds of tweets from people saying that they miss my commentary, and I can't tell you how good that makes me feel. You know what I mean? I honestly can't tell you how good that makes me feel. Pray for Blank says, what? Art of Happiness? I want to be happy. No poker, all happy talk. Fix my problems. No, dude, The Art of Happiness is actually a pretty good book. We are getting to poker, I promise. Anyway, so that was my talk on Poker Central and Poker Go. Give them a chance, guys, honestly. I like the direction they're going. I mean, Poker After Dark is coming back. Some form of high-stakes poker is coming back. There are going to be a lot of shows that are going to be airing on that network. So I'm a fan of giving somebody a chance, and let's not judge somebody on their first swing. You know, they're going to learn. And like I said, hey, for their virgin ride at this, you know, I think they did a pretty fucking good job. Josh Wilson says, how are the games at Hustler? Have you brought more pros? Yeah, they see me play, and they're like, yeah, let's go. Let's play. The games are great. The 510 doesn't spread often enough to bring some of the top regs. We do get some, and we have some 5-5 regs down there that are good, that have kind of like figured out the gold mine that I knew about for the last 6 years. They've realized, oh, wow, you can make a good money in this 5-5 game as long as the buy-in is 200 big blinds. Keep in mind, the 5-5 game, just like the bike, and just like Aria, where it's 2-5 is a $1,000 buy-in. When you can buy in for 200 bigs and you can buy in for $1,000, stacks get deep and the game gets big. And I'm not going to lie. In fact, we had a 5-10 game going the other day and a 5-5 game, and there was more money at the 5-5 table. Apparently, the phone seems down. Let's see if we can get this going. I don't know what is going on. Okay, that might have worked, guys. If you're trying to call in now. We'll do that. NFL season right around the corner. Obviously, training camp in full fray. My bets of the year starting to get pretty bad. I like the San Diego Chargers over 7.5, although they lost Forrest Lamp. Not liking it as much. I've loved the Jets under 5, but you've got to pay a pretty high price on that, and in some places it's 4.5. That said, the Jets are not a good team. They are not a good team at all. Hello? You are under the gun. Who is this?
My name is Rich.
Hey, Rich. What's going on, my man?
First off, this Art of Love book, and that must have been written by the biggest loser. Everybody in poker knows.
Hold on. Slow down. What, you got something going on. You got some noise in the background. Can you turn that off, your volume on your phone?
Hold on.
Thanks, buddy. Because you sound like you got a rant coming, and nobody can understand you. First off, Rich, where are you from? Rich, where'd you go?
I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Hello. Welcome from Raleigh, North Carolina, my man. How are you? Hey, how are those transgender bathrooms?
So, they're not, I guess we're getting punished a lot for it. Like a lot of the NBA All-Star game, they didn't want to go to Charlotte.
Right.
But the problem that I have with it is that the people in Charlotte or the people that are in Raleigh, I mean, we're really progressive, so it's like we're getting punished. You're basically punishing the people that kind of that are, the state's a really big state, and there's a lot of agriculture and stuff like that, and just views are totally different. So, like for example, they canceled the Pearl Jam concert that I was, planning to go to.
Right.
It's like the people in Raleigh are the ones that are going to be supporting it. So that's the only problem that I have with it.
Yeah, I can understand that, man. I mean, it sucks to be judged by and to be judged and punished because of your lowest common denominator, so to speak.
Yeah,
and I guess
it's like
as a country,
the Raleigh-Durham area, it's one of the most per capita. It's got like the most PhDs because there's 3 big schools here.
Right.
They're all and so I mean this whole area I think is people just think that you live in North Carolina and you get the stigma I guess, and so I guess it's kind of bad in that way.
Right. I got you. I'm not going anywhere, guys. I'm just grabbing the book. Okay, so Rich, why did you call in? What can I help you with, my man?
A couple things. I was just saying that Art of Love book. I mean,
no, it's not Art of Love. It's not Art of Love, dude. It's not Art of Love. Here it is. It is the Art of Happiness.
Okay, Art of Happiness. Sorry.
And it is.
What I was going to say about that, half joking, is that it seems like in poker, that's kind of like a loser book. Like in poker, everybody knows it's all about envy, it's all about greed, it's all about going for. You're always that's like how you're judged. You know what I mean? It's not like. I don't know. That's how I kind of view. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, okay. Listen, there is a difference. Like I said, you've got to read the book for me to give you a full thing on it. What I was trying to get at was there's nothing wrong with pushing yourself to be a better poker player and to winning the most money at the table because that's how the game is judged. Like in baseball, you score runs, you strike out people, you get people out, you win the game. That's how it's judged. Football, you score touchdowns. Okay. In poker, the way we keep score is how many chips you have in front of you and how many chips you're winning. That's how we keep score. So there's nothing wrong with, it's not really greed. It's you're playing the game that you sat down to play. You're playing it by its rules. That said,
go ahead.
What I was trying to get at was if you're always looking at what you don't have rather than what you have, you will find that it will be hard to find happiness in your life. Whether it's from a poker point of view or any point of view, there's always going to be somebody out there who plays a bigger game, who makes more money than you, who drives a better car, who has a hotter girlfriend, who has a nicer house. You can always find somebody like that. So if you're always going to be unhappy if you haven't reached that goal, you're never that goal is unattainable because there's always somebody. That's what I was trying to get at.
Once you basically buy into that concept, right? You're basically never going to be the best. You're never going to be Fader Holtz. You know what I mean? It's like that. You have to. Are you basically saying that your goal is not to become the best?
No, and that's what I try to say. I said it's a fine line. Listen, you always want to try to push yourself to be the best, okay? But even when you're the best, there might be somebody that's better at something else. What I'm trying to say is,
I agree.
You don't want to sit on your laurels, okay? Even if you're Joe Buck, regardless of what you think about Joe Buck, this is a guy who's called, the biggest games in the world. Calls the World Series of baseball, not poker. If you're Elon Musk and you've reached all this amazing fame and I'm just saying that generally speaking, even if you're the best poker player in the world and you went for that, or if you're the best ice hockey player in the world, there still might be somebody who's better at something else than you.
Yeah, I mean a lot of people like in poker too is like they might look down at like an average, like I guess business person, and the truth is like they're probably making twice as much money as you are. They probably have a nice family and so forth. So I guess that's true.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's a really fine line because I am a big fan of always motivating yourself and always pushing yourself, never stopping. Keep pushing. And I'm not saying, like I said, I think it's hard to explain this it's hard to explain this in a really, in a succinct way because it's kind of sounds like, oh, you've reached mediocrity. Just be satisfied with that. No, that's not. I don't want you to ever be happy with mediocrity and don't ever be satisfied and always push yourself for more and try to better yourself in whatever you want to do. But I just mean, there comes a point where if you want to be happy though, if you're always judging yourself by what you don't have, it's a tough stick to measure yourself to. Does that make sense?
Sounds good. I have one more quick question.
Go ahead, man. Shoot away.
I was like, what do you think about the average age of poker? I know there was some talk this year about. It seems like at the WSOP there wasn't as many younger players. So, like, are there not as many new players coming in, and for what reasons? I know that there's like esports is really popular, and like, where do you see it in like 10 years as far as?
I think poker is healthy. I see. I am not on the side of the fence that like, oh, the boom is over and poker's dying. I am not on that side. Now, poker is certainly not exploding and growing at the rate it was in 03 and 04 and 05 and 06, because like any industry, it couldn't possibly grow at that rate forever. We would have 60,000 people in the World Series Poker Main Event. That said, I think it would be naive to think that, generally speaking, kids that are 21, 22, and 23 years old don't have that much money. I don't know how old you are, Rich. How old are you?
I'm 38.
Okay, when you were, do you remember when you were 22?
Yeah, it's a while ago.
Um,
But wasn't all the money coming in from the younger kids were good at poker from online poker sites? Was that not true? That was kind of
no, I
could be
think
young and
I
still
think
have money. Was
yeah,
that not
no,
true?
I think that's for sure. But I don't know if that's necessarily like I don't know if that was necessarily like great for poker. I mean, how many kids from the age of 21 to 24? I know I saw the chart that Doug Polk put out there, and people started talking about it. And my first thought was, okay, what were the numbers like in 08 and 09 and 07? Was a much higher percentage young kids? I don't think it was, because the vast majority of 22-year-olds lost online. They didn't win. We just hear about the ones that won. We hear about the Fedors, and we hear about the Tom Dwans. So, you know those guys. But, I mean, how many, 22-year-old superstars were there even in 2010 and 2011? I still think that made up. I think that made up a small percentage. I think poker's healthy. I think poker's fine. I don't think it's growing at the rate it was growing 10 years ago. I think that would be naive to think it could. But this game is great. I mean, we had over 7,200 people in the main event this year.
Yeah, and the one thing that I've gotten back into poker is that they finally figured out a way a couple years back to get money into sites, in America, through like Bitcoin. So it's kind of good in a way. It's kind of like you get busy with life and kids and so forth, and you can't. It feels so bad that you can't actually like put money in into any website. But so I think some of those sites are kind of growing. So maybe that too will bring some more interest in the United States. So
yeah, I mean, I think poker's still alive and well. I'm not worried about it, guys. I mean, this is a game that's been played for well over 100 years, and people love it. Will we have valleys? I still think the game, I mean, and I will say from a global standpoint, the game is incredibly healthy. Just this year, I mean, 888, I'm now in bed with 888, and I do their live commentary on the live streams. I have been to the Czech Republic in Rozvadov. I have been to Barcelona. I am going to Brazil in 1 month, and then I'll be in London. And I'm telling you that around the world, poker is incredibly popular. And
have you heard about what's going on in China as far as growth? I know that supposedly there's some events or something out there. I don't know. This seems like a huge market.
Yeah, there's a ton of events. I mean, obviously it's a huge market. I'm not privy to what exactly is going on there. I haven't been to China. Bart might be somebody to ask better about that. It's just he's been there, and he's been there a few times now. I've never been there, so I don't know any information that anybody else wouldn't know. But anyway, that's it. Hey, Rich, man, thanks so much for the call, buddy.
All right, bye.
Later, man. I had a hand I wanted to kind of over, but first I want to do a shout-out for Nipun. Nipun, my man. How about some, there might not be any more Black Booth Mojo, Sandy Joy, but there is apparently hashtag podcast run good. That's right, Under the Gun podcast run good. I had Nipun on, hang on a second here. Hang on 1 second. I'm in the middle of congratulating somebody. Don't go anywhere. I had Nipun on in April-ish. I don't know. You can go on crushlivepoker.com and you can look through the catalog of Under the Gun podcast. But I had Nipun on to talk about tournament poker, and I have long been a fan of him from a personal standpoint and his game. He has dominated the LA scene poker-wise for quite some time, and then all he did this summer was win 2 bracelets. And then I'm not sure if you just heard, he just won over $200,000 in Southern Florida at the Hard Rock Seminole when he won the first side event. So Nipun, 3 major wins this year, all since he's been on this podcast. Hey, maybe it's a coincidence, but maybe not. Hello, you were under the gun. Who is this?
Hey, Tuck. Thanks for taking my call, man.
Who is this?
This is Beats Me on the CLP forums.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, bud?
And good. Hey, are y'all going to get some more of the mental game coaches like you used to do?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get I'll get Cardner on, I'll get Elliot Rowe on, and I'll get Tendler on a bunch. What'd you think of Tommy Angelo?
Well, I've never read Elements of Poker. I'm actually in the middle of reading that book right now, and then I was going to try to pick up Painless Poker. But yeah, so far, as much as I know about Tommy Angelo, I've heard him on a few podcasts, but I'm reading his Elements of Poker book right now, and it's a great read so far.
Yeah, he gave good advice. He came on the show before the World Series. I'm definitely going to have all those guys on. There was a point where I was getting a mental game coach on every week. I'll probably get him on every other week. Gives me time to get other people on the show. But I know this game is so mental, and I know for a lot of us, me included, dealing with the mental aspects of the game is as much of a hurdle as the technical aspects of the game.
Yeah, I've been trying to work on my mental game here lately. I joined a site that was it's all about the mental game, and they really kind of push a pre-game routine.
Yeah.
You want to try to do the kind of same stuff before you go play just to get your mind or to get yourself in the right frame of mind. And I was wondering if you have a pre-game routine. What do you do before you go play? Do you do anything to kind of get yourself in the mood to play poker?
I'm going to be honest. I should. It's a great idea because, when I played hockey in college, I had a pre-game routine. During the day.
Yeah, right.
During the day, I would almost always take a 20-minute weird nap in my room where I would play some music, depending on what mood I was in. I would close my eyes and I would visualize the game. I would visualize how it would go. I'm a big believer in visualization. And then, I would get to the rink. I would stretch. I would talk to some of my teammates. I'd get in the locker room, and I had a routine. And for whatever reason, as a poker player, a lot of poker players don't. They just, you finish work, you just head home, you head there, and you just do it. I think having some sort of a routine would be hugely important. So I'm a big believer in that. Matt Berkey talked about this, by the way. Matt Berkey said one of the reasons he dresses up is because and I've had him on the show as well, he said that he dresses up to get his mind in the correct frame of mind, to get his head in the correct frame of mind, I should say, because he realizes that if he's dressing up for it, it's important. This is what he's doing. He's taking it seriously. So I'm a big believer in that. I like it. It's easier said than done.
It is definitely easier said than done.
Yeah,
because I'm just a recreational player. I have a full-time job and 2 kids, so it's very hard for me to find the extra 20 minutes before I go play to prepare myself to go play.
You know what? Maybe it's a matter of finding 6 minutes, because I get you, man. You work, and let's be honest. You and I are not in that many different shapes. I obviously play poker for a living, but I have other jobs. I now have 2 kids. I've got a wife. It's hard because I'm looking at it going, I'm already playing 20 hours a week. How do I find an extra 2 hours to prepare for it? And maybe it's as simple as coming up with a shorter sequence of events to do for yourself. Maybe something that only takes 4 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a matter of also when I get my money out from the safe deposit box, sometimes it's literally just a matter of taking a moment, taking a couple of deep breaths, and just just telling myself, let the game come to you.
Let the game come to you. Yeah.
That's one of my mantras.
Do you do anything if your session is going badly, in the middle? Do you just will you get up from the table and take a walk?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Do you have a routine at that point, or if you take a a real bad beat or something like that.
Yeah. Wasatch Traveler says, doesn't even have the time to shave, poor bastard. Yeah, seriously, dude, shaving is hard. No, I'm just lazy. Anyway, and the wife likes the scruff. I have been, by the way, so I have coached many people. Some of my students have come to me with that issue. And I do. And I think there's a few things you can do, and you've got to figure out what works for you. What I do is I will often get up from the table and just take a break. It's not a big deal. The table's not going anywhere. If it's a matter of, if there's a place you can get a drink, a juice, whatever the hell you want to do, go for a walk, relax, okay? Another thing that I will do is, now that we all have smartphones in our pockets, you'll have some sort of notes app in there, I will actually put pen to paper, so to speak, obviously. I will put that down, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, how I'm playing, what's going on at the table. And it's a weird thing. Ever since I was a little kid, if I felt overwhelmed, my mom used to get me this big calendar. And if I ever felt overwhelmed by things going on in my life, I could use the calendar and I could write stuff down that, just to get it out of my head. It's kind of like writing a to-do list. If you've got 1,000,001 things to do, and you being a father of two, you know this all too well. Sometimes just getting it out of your head and on paper can really help. So I will do that with poker sometimes, where it'll simple as okay, got caught bluffing, what's my image like? And I'll write this down. What does seat 2 think? What does seat 4 think? What does seat 6 think of me? Okay, what adjustments can I make to exploit the way they perceive me now? And I will actually go through the time. And it doesn't take more than 5-10 minutes. Usually one orbit, maybe 2, tops. And then I go sit down at the table, because then I'm like, okay. And I've kind of, whatever was burning in my head that was about to set me off on tilt, I've figured out a way to get it out of my head onto paper, or, like I said, in my iPhone. And it's kind of there now.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make any sense?
That's pretty cool. No, yeah, it does. It focuses your energy still on the poker game, but away from the what just happened that was bad.
Right. Another thing, I told a student to do this, and it actually worked for him. He said he was so focused on leaving the casino up that I told him that when he lost a buy-in, to end the session. I said, when you're up a buy-in or down a session, end the session. Go do something, and then sit down and start a new session. Obviously we all have whatever app you might have in your phone again, or if you're using pen and paper, you probably keep track of your poker records, I assume, right?
Yeah, of course.
So for him, I just said, listen, end the session. And then you start a new one. I'm not saying leave. I'm just saying, end that session. Right. So it's so basically he would go play poker now for 6 hours, and he might have 3 sessions in that 6-hour period.
Right. Okay.
I said, because at the end of the day, it's so arbitrary. It's so stupid. I don't know why we get to this point, but it's dumb. For whatever reason, we show up to the casino at, 7 o'clock at night, and we stay till 1 in the morning, and we don't want to leave a loser. So what happens more often than not, people stay when they're stuck, right? But isn't it so arbitrary that we happen to make that the session? Why can't the session be the week? Or why can't the session be the month? Or, if you really want to get crazy, make a session every hour. I don't give a shit what you do. It's all arbitrary how you divide them.
Yeah, I heard you say one time on one of your podcasts that you didn't care if you had a losing week, and then you said a losing month, and you said maybe even 2 months in a row. It doesn't even bother you anymore if you lose 2 months in a row. And I just really want to get to that point.
It's hard, and dude, because, it's been a long road.
A losing month, it kind of weighs on me.
Yeah, it's been a long road. I'm not going to say I didn't get there overnight. It used to be that I remember when I first started propping, I would stay late if I was down. You just think about it, what the fuck are you doing? It's just so arbitrary, But it's mental toughness. It's not unlike an athlete. I don't know if you play any sports, but it's not unlike a golfer who has a bad shot. We all just watched Jordan Spieth come back and win.
Not crazy.
Yeah, if you guys aren't, I don't care if you're a golf fan or not. If you want a lesson in mental toughness, watch Jordan Spieth on the back 9 of the British Open. You can YouTube it. I'm sure it's all there. This is a guy who came in as a huge leader. lost the entire lead, and then was actually down. And it looked like the entire thing was going to unravel. And then all he did was like birdie, eagle, birdie, birdie, birdie to close it out. If you're a baseball player and you're in a slump, if you're a football player and you're a cornerback and you just got burned by a wide receiver, as a poker player, you have to develop that mental toughness. You're going to lose a lot. You know, there are going to be times it doesn't work out. You know? So you just gotta figure out a way to develop that mental toughness. And like I said, I mean, I don't consider poker a sport. I don't give a shit what Dreyfus says. Sportify my ass. But it's but from a mental standpoint, it has many comparisons to sports. So
yeah. Okay.
Anyway, man, listen. Call back. I promise you, I will have a mental coach next week. I've got Fleischman on to talk crypto, but the week after, I'll get a mental game coach on. And make sure you call in with some of your questions.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it, man.
Cool. Later, buddy. Thanks for calling in, guys. This has been a fun little show. It's always fun. Sometimes I've got pages and pages of plans, and the shows last an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then some days, I don't know what direction I'm going to go. I've got a couple of things outlined and a couple of things that I want to talk about. But, you know, sometimes it's just a matter of, like, figuring out where it's going to go. Wasatch Traveler says, once you have some skills, mental game is everything. Dude, you are, I mean, I think, I tend to agree. Learning how to play poker isn't that hard. There are a lot of resources out there. Obviously, I'm quite fond of Crush Live Poker. I work there. I believe in it. I wouldn't work there if I didn't believe in it. I know the coaches that are there, they all win. And they all win a lot of money. And they've been beating the game for a long time. It's not like some guy who's like been crushing online for 6 months. These are guys that have been beating the game for a decade or longer. But there's a lot of resources out there. Okay? There's tons. You can learn how to be... So the mental game is a big part of it. And like I said, we've had Dr. Tricia Cardner on the show. We've had Elliot Rowe on the show. I've had Jared Tendler on the show. I've had Tommy Angelo on the show. And they've all been great and all very different. In fact, Tommy Angelo taught me something. I got something from him right away. He mentioned that sometimes, you know, body language, the way we're playing can be seen in our body language, and the way we're feeling can be seen in our body language. And sometimes if you're not feeling something, you can go from the outside in rather than the inside out. And I think I've talked about this before. I used to act a lot, and there's two ways to act, where you can work from the inside out, and you can, like, let's say you needed to cry. You might want to, you know, put yourself in that spot. You know, when you're first learning, you can, like, you know, try to imagine what it was like when you cried, when your grandfather died, or whatever it might be, and try to use that, and then obviously get there. The other method is there are physical things, and you learn this in movement class. I know a lot of you are probably laughing at me, but yeah, I actually went to movement class. There's a situation where you can actually... There are physical things that happen to you when you cry, or when you're happy, or when you're excited or angry or whatever it might be. And sometimes you can actually replicate those physical things, and that will get you there. So there are some things that happen, like maybe your lips start to quiver and you start to shake, and that can actually get you to the point where crying. So bringing that over to poker, I think there are ways we act. Try to pay attention to somebody who's... Next time you play poker, pay attention to the guy who's winning and crushing. And he's he's the table captain. See how he's looking. And then look at either the same guy or a different guy who's losing that day. And see how their body language is. Now, what happens if I can replicate the way they look regardless of it? So Tommy brought up, he said, sometimes we slouch in our chair, and that can kind of bring this, bad, mediocrity feeling. He said sometimes the best thing you do is get a second chair. So it's funny. So I was playing stud high-low at the World Series this summer. They have a 50-100 game that's always been great year after year. So I'm playing one of the very few days I got to play poker this summer. I jumped in a 50-100 stud 8 game. And I lost a couple of hands. Like, I lost one spot that was just sick. I had split queens, and there was a queen that was dead. And and it was a shorthanded table, so I played the hand, and I catch a third queen on 4th Street. So it's going to be so well hidden. You know what I mean? Normally, if you pair your door card, people are always scared that you might have trips. But the fact that there was a dead queen, my opponent's never going to put me on it. He might put me on 2 pair. He might think I have 3 high suited cards. He might think I have some sort of king, queen, jack type hand. Like I said, we're shorthanded, so high cards go up in value in stud 8 when you're playing shorthanded. And he proceeded to catch he had a king up. He decided to catch a king on 4th, okay? And then a king on 5th. And I was like, oh, you got to be fucking kidding me, right? Not only did I lose a small pot, but it cost me what would have been a huge pot. The guy's got up kings, I've got up queens. If he makes 2 pair, I'm getting tons of money from him. There's just no way he's folding. But whatever. Anyway, I lost that, and I was feeling a little bit like, ugh. So I went and I did this, you know what? And I got a second chair, and I put it on the first chair. I was at the Rio, and I will tell you that almost instantaneously, I felt better. I felt good. I've seen people do that. I don't know. Pray for Blank says, Tuck is a self-proclaimed bankroll nit, which I think really helps dealing with long losing streaks if it's only 2% of your net worth. Yeah. Hey, and by the way, listen. If you are not somebody who can deal with losing streaks, then maybe you should be a bankroll nit. Again, if I was 23 years old or 24 years old, living at home or sharing an apartment, let's say, me and 2 of my poker buddies had an apartment and my rent was $600 a month or $700 a month, maybe I would be taking more shots, so to speak. But the fact of the matter is I'm not that young. My situation is not that way, and I'm much more comfortable. I don't want to play in a game where the actual money on the table, affects the decision that I make. I want to make the best decision possible based on what I think is the most optimal play. If I think check raise bluffing on the river is the best play, then I should do it. If I think over bet jamming with a bluff or something like that, if I think it's the best play, or if I think a hero call is the best, I don't want to ever look at it and go, man, I can't do this. I've got $35,000 on the table. I can't do that. I don't want to be in that situation. Pray for Blank says, yeah, my wife is totally negative EV. Stupid people counting on us. I know hey, that's having a family is in some ways positive EV. I talked to Danielle Moon about this because I can't imagine, when I come home now from a bad day at poker, come home and I give my kids a kiss and then they run to me and hang out with my wife and have a beer and we chill and we eat some dinner, watch some TV, and I'm like, okay, cool. Life's not so bad. But I get it, when you've got no responsibilities, and I tell people this all the time when they talk about bankroll management. The whole question of, how much, how big your bankroll needs to be is really a question that is unique to each and every person depending on your situation. So, anyway, Pray for Blank says, Tommy's Elements of Poker is a maze of balls. His new one, not so good. Yeah, I can get that. So I mentioned the Poon. Poker podcast run good. Hustler, action has been great there, guys. Obviously, this month there's going to be more action at the bike because Legends is going on there. But even with that, though, I was there yesterday. 3-5-5 games at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with, average stack $1,300. Some stacks as high as 3,000, a couple of shorties, but not terrible. I mean, there's as much money on a 5-5 game as there is on a smaller 5-10 game, I would say. World Series of Poker, I had a great time. I got to tell you, Doug Polk, I'm a fan. I like the guy. We became friends this summer, and I got to work with him on the break desk 5 or 6 times. And I actually told him, I joked around with him, I said, when I came into this summer knowing I was going to work with you, I was like, oh man, okay. My perception of Doug before the summer was arrogant, doesn't think his shit stinks, and has no problem stepping on other people to kind of lift himself up. after meeting him, he's still arrogant, and many of the greats are. He's still obviously very cocky and confident, but he's a really cool guy. The one benefit of doing the break desk was I had about an hour in between breaks where I could, after we do a break desk, we'd go to Starbucks, we'd go for a walk, then we'd come back, and then we'd prepare the next break. So Doug is, but he's a cool dude, and he knows his poker. He's smart, obviously. I did a 888 Ride thing with him. If you guys haven't checked that out, you can check out 888 Ride on YouTube. Really cool shit, actually. Hello?
Hello, Tuchman?
Yeah, what's up, my man? You're under the gun. Who's this?
Oh, shit. This is Never Learn 2.
Hey, what's up, Never Learn? How are you, my man?
What's going on? I never called into a show before, and, I don't know if I should give you my government name or what name I should give you, so I'm sorry.
You can do whatever you want. If you want to give me, your first name, you can. If you don't want to give me your first name, you don't have to.
Okay, I'm Asian. I got a funny first name.
Okay, if we want to stick with Never Learn, we can. I don't really care, dude. I'll call you whatever you want.
No, my first name's Mon.
Mon?
Okay. You're in Jamaica, yeah.
Okay, hey, I like that, man. Mon, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad you called in, buddy. What's going on? What can I do for you?
All right, I got a question. It's not it's a poker-related question, but it's not a strategy question.
Okay. Basically,
there's two regs that we play with, and they're pretty good, and they always play, whenever we play 3-5 or anything higher, they're always there.
Okay.
And they're actually pretty good guys. I have nothing negative really to say about them, But they do kind of play together. And it's not, super obvious, but, they'll sit on opposite ends. I've seen them pass chips back and forth to each other during a session. And when they're in the hand, it's obviously, everyone knows it's going to get checked down or stuff like that, right? My issue is, a lot of times, since they sit on opposite ends, I'm always in between, and I don't know, I don't have proof that they openly cheat or anything like that. It's always in my mind, I'm stuck between them. I know they do this. You know what I mean? What should I do? Should I even play the game? Is it worth it? Is that just too many? Am I just being paranoid?
No, I mean, not at all. I mean, I think, first of all, okay, are they good players?
Well, they're better. Yeah, I'd say they're good. They're two of the better players in the room. That's for sure.
Okay, well then that is a problem. I have played against players that were playing partners who were really bad, and some people are like, "Oh, don't play with those guys. They're partners." I'll be like, "They suck." I don't care if they're partners. But if you're playing against guys that are good and are partners, that's unfair. Are you playing in a casino or a home game?
It's a casino. Yeah,
I mean, I think you are well within your right to mention this to the floorman, or mention this to the poker room manager. They're not allowed to pass chips back and forth. First of all, where do you play? Where's this casino?
I really like this place, but I don't want to throw it under their bus. Management's great.
Dude, they might keep in mind
it's in Bakersfield.
Yeah,
so it's Golden West Casino.
Keep in mind, they don't. You're not throwing them under the bus. There's a good chance the floorman and the poker manager have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. That's another thing. I don't want to throw them. I don't want to rat them out. Almost. I don't want to be the one. I know that sounds weak, and maybe that doesn't sound right, but I just don't want to be the one to say and make a big deal. I've been playing with them for years.
I would give you a couple of different things. Listen, I'm not a big fan of ratting people out because but at the same time, though, they are. They're. This is where you play. I'm sorry. By the way, I talked over. Where do you play again? What's the name of the casino?
Golden West Casino.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Listen, I think you have three options. Okay, number one, you can ignore it and just know it going in. Okay,
that's what.
And make adjustments accordingly.
Yeah.
Number two, you can go to the casino and you can go to the floor, the tournament floor. The poker managers, the floormen, and say to them, "Listen, these guys play partners. They move chips and back forth. This way, nobody knows you did it." And then the guy just goes to them, "But listen, you can't do this." The third option you can do, and this is depending on your relationship with them, is there's nothing wrong with bringing them aside, taking them aside, and telling them, "Listen, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
The gig's up. I know it. Okay. I don't want to be the guy to rat you out.
Yeah.
but don't pull the shit when I'm in the hand with you.
It's like a well-known thing.
It's a
to
me if it's a well-known thing, I'm not going to lie to you. If it's a well-known thing, and these are two of the better players in the room,
yeah,
you're doing the amateurs that show up on a daily basis a disservice by allowing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way: if I knew it happened at Hustler, I would stop it.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of ratting
I think
out.
maybe
it's like these guys are cheating.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is. I mean, it is cheating. It's not kind of is. It is.
I mean,
that's why I don't like it. I mean,
yeah.
Before it never bothered me until I joined COP, and then it was like, this might not be.
I mean, you can put it out there, put it out on Crush Live Poker in the forums, and ask what everybody else says. I don't know if you have or not, but to me, that's that's cheating. And I mean, I am a firm believer in protecting the amateur.
Okay.
And to me, if some unsuspecting businessman were to walk in there and he gets played by these two guys, is that really fair? Because then the guy never comes back. How is that good for your game? And how is that fair?
Yeah.
How is that fair to the guy who comes in and doesn't know? You know what I mean? It's just not. I used to get into this problem with Trish LeBlanc and Mike, Corporation Mike, and they weren't playing partners, but they clearly weren't playing against each other. So to me, it's like one of those things where if you are doing that with somebody, I think there should be full disclosure and let everybody know, hey, this is my mom, or this is my friend, or this is my girlfriend. We don't play against each other. So at least you know.
Yeah. Hey, Tori, hold on a second, Tuck. Can you help him real quick? Hey, Tuck, I'm really sorry. I own a business. We just got rushed. I got your answer. I'm going to talk to him. I'm emboldened by your answer. I got to go.
Go.
I'm really sorry, Tuck.
I'll talk to you later, man. Later, buddy.
Thank you. Bye.
A plethora of call-ins today, guys. I love it. Hello, Duarte says, Tuck, doesn't this happen at Live at the Bike all the time? Okay, there's a difference between players not playing against somebody and playing partners. Okay? I think it's bad for Live at the Bike, and I've told Ryan Feldman this, and I think it's bad for the show. But in poker and cash games, there's nothing, it happens. There's nothing wrong with, I don't play soft against anybody, but there would be nothing wrong with if Bart and I were at the same table checking, after everybody folded and we're at the river, I just go check. In fact, there's one guy at Hustler, I don't do it with him, but I don't play hard against him. He's a total businessman, amateur. I'm friends with him. I like that he shows up every day at 10 in the morning, so he helps me start the game. And the last thing I want to do is break the guy. I will protect my hand, but a lot of times on the river, I won't always bet against just him. Now, if it's three ways, totally different scenario. There's a big difference between playing soft against somebody and playing partners. And if Never Learned thinks that these two are playing partners and they're not fish, then he needs to do something about it. Whether he needs to talk to them or talk to the poker room about it, regardless. Hello, Duarte says, so if you have a piece of someone, is that playing a partner? Hello, Duarte says, I'm confused what a partner means in this sense. Well, partners can do a lot of things depending on what game you're playing. I can signal, let's just say, for example, I am playing with somebody and we're partners. What stops me from, let's just say there's a bet, let's say on the flop, there's a bet, there's a call, and then I give the signal to the guy behind me to raise. Okay? So now, they're all worried about maybe him. I mean, there are just some things that I can do when I'm playing partners based on, signals, hand signals, chip signals, whatever it might be, and I can let my partner what kind of hand I have and what they can do. And it can be very difficult to play against players like that if you don't know. I mean, if I'm concerned with seat 4, but I think seat 8 is kind of out of it because, he only called the raise, and how could he really have a big hand? Well, he can do certain things because he knows by a signal he can get seat 4 to raise. Peter O'Neill says tag team squeezing and bluffing is big. There's a lot of things that they can do. I mean, it's also, think about this. Let's say you call a raise in the big blind with like 10-9 suited, and the flop comes out King 9-3 with one of your suit. Now, let's say it checks through the razor and he bets. And let's say his partner's on his left and he calls. It's a lot harder to call when there's a bet and an overcall and a call. You know what I mean? So there's just some things that they can do. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a bet and a raise, and then it gets back to you, and you're like, suddenly I've got to fold some of my marginal hands. So you just got to be really wary of it. I've played against a few people that have played partners. For the most part, in games that I've played with where people felt compelled to be partners, they were so bad that I didn't care. It happened to me in Vancouver once, actually. Bart and I went up there for a Crush Live Poker seminar, and I played one night. And I noticed that a couple of guys were playing partners, and I didn't care because they were terrible at it. So anyway, that's kind of the thing. I mean, I think when you buy a piece of somebody, if you're at the same table, that can be a definite conflict of interest, and I think that needs to be. I think that probably should be revealed. I believe in full transparency. It's a very, and I think in tournaments as well, it's a very dangerous road to go down when you start having pieces of somebody and maybe they're at your table. Now in tournaments, there's a really good chance you can have a piece of somebody and they just don't end up at your table, so it's not a big deal. But I don't think it's fair if, I'm at a table with, 5 fish and 3 other pros, and me and 2 of the pros each have 25% of each other. I don't think that's fair. It's not something I would do. An unknown man says, David, I love your voice. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. My voice is struggling today. I'm not going to lie. Enjoying the longboard Island Lager. I got sick like a week and a half ago, and I'm feeling fine. I actually went to the gym yesterday. I had a personal trainer. I go to a personal trainer every Tuesday morning now. A guy who's like sports specific training. I'm working with a guy who specifically working with me for ice hockey. So I've been working a lot on legs and core and ass and, really trying to strengthen that up and build up my explosiveness. The older I get, I realize the more I need to work on it. Played hockey on Sunday night, so I feel fine. But I still have this like drippy cough, which is so fucking annoying. So it's probably affecting my voice. Anyway, I appreciate the call-in, guys. Let's see. So we talked about Nippon, Hustler, Poker Central, World Series Poker. I mentioned Doug Polk. I had a lot of guys work with me this summer. Matt Berkey was great. Jonathan Little was a lot of fun. I think he's great. Fun is not the right word because Jonathan Little, I wouldn't look at Jonathan Little and be like, oh, fun. But he really knows his shit. And he's very professional, and he's really good to work with. I like Jonathan. Jeff Gross was good. Matt Berkey did a good job. Doug Polk, I think, is really, really good. I don't think it's a coincidence that he has become a poker star over the last couple of years. And I think one of the reasons is obviously he's a good poker player, but I think he has charisma, he's charming, and he's also quite funny. And like I said, if you haven't watched, I did a series of interviews in cars this summer. I picked up Doug Polk, Phil Hellmuth, Natasha Mercier, Maria Ho, and a few others. Anyway, check that out. But Doug and I did one, and we met at the marijuana dispensary in Vegas, which, by the way, is awesome. Legal marijuana, guys. Cheers to that. So that was a lot of fun. Hello, Helio Duarte. Is Berkey as smart as he comes off? Yeah, I think he's a really intelligent guy. There are some things that he does in poker that I don't necessarily agree with, which is fine. There's a lot of ways to be successful in poker. And I'm sure there are things that I do that he doesn't agree with. But he's a pretty smart guy. Yeah, Helio says, I gained a lot of respect for poker over the last 6 months. Me too. Like I said, he did some things early on, picking fights with some big names. And he obviously did that to get his name out there. And I didn't agree with that approach. I didn't like that. I don't think you need to step on people to lift yourself up. I don't believe in that approach. I don't believe in going on Twitter and just being like, let me find the biggest guy out there and just put out a really polarizing opinion and I'll be in the news. It worked for Doug, though, and I give him credit. But like I said, he has kind of pulled back from that persona a little bit. And he has been able to rest on his own laurels. And he works hard. This guy works hard. He understands what he's doing. He's good with the fans. And like I said, he's a funny guy. I had a lot of fun doing the 888 ride thing with him. I got one hand I want to talk about, but before I get to the hand, I want to mention, so normally I play Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays and at Hustler, so you can always come down and join me there. This past Monday, there was a memorial service for a gentleman in the poker world that none of you know. Guy's name is Phil Smith, and he has worked with Poker Productions for many, many years. He works for a company in LA called Echo Entertainment, which is the company that has been behind many of the greatest poker shows you'll ever see. He also has worked X Games. They do some esports, surfing shows, and he's a director. He's one of the big men. He's one of the biggest guys out, like, in terms of, he is one of the definite biggest keys in what you watch on TV. Anyway, at 52 years old, this bigger-than-life personality, gregarious man with a great smile was home after being at the World Series for the last 2 weeks with the main event. He was home in L.A., went for a walk with his son, and had a heart attack and died. My condolences to his family, everybody that's ever worked with him, and the list is long. This is a guy that I wouldn't say we were friends, but we were definitely friendly. I met his wife and his family in France when we did the World Series of Poker Europe a few years ago. He brought his family out to go on vacation after the event, maybe before. So I had dinner with them, and lovely wife, lovely family. And like I said, this is a guy who wasn't just somebody we worked with. He was just a great guy. And horrific thing that has happened. And his death will be lost by many. His loss will be felt by many, I should say. Anyway, so I doubt that he or anybody will be listening to this, but if they are, obviously he's not, but I'm saying if his family or anybody that's worked with him in the past knows him, they know who I'm talking about. So my condolences to them and my thoughts, but just absolutely horrific, and kind of reminds me, and to keep things in perspective, hug the people you love. Don't forget to tell them you love them, because life is weird. You literally never know when this could happen. I saw this guy, I'm not even kidding, about 3 weeks ago when I left Vegas. I was working the main event as a producer, of all things. And we were on like day 6. And I had to go home. And it was during dinner break, so I went to the buffet and I saw him, gave him a big hug and a handshake. And he's like, "Where are you going, Tuck?" And I go, "I'm out. I'm going home. I want to see my newborn. I miss him." And he goes, "That's awesome." So it's like I just saw him. And like just a few days later, the guy's dead. So hold on to those of you who love, It can always can be taken away at any moment. Phil, you're a great guy. We will miss you. Anyway, I promised you some poker, and here's some poker. So I got into an interesting hand, actually, with Squishy Tomato, Mark. Those of you might know him from the Crush Live Poker forums. He's also on Slack. He's on there all the time, and he is a regular at Hustler. Very good guy. I'm a fan. I'm good friends with him now. I actually bought a piece of him this summer. We're friends, but we combat and we battle hard on the table, and we've gotten into a lot of big hands. Sometimes he's gotten the best of me. Sometimes I've gotten the best of him. Yesterday, he got the best of me, but I sucked out. But I want to go through the hands. Anyway, I was in seat 6. Squishy Tomato was in seat 9. Asian Kim was in seat 4. She is, for lack of better words, she's a spot. She's an amateur, and she's a spot in this game. I love my spot. I love my situation because, generally speaking, there's nobody at this table that's going to be playing back at me, and I can ISO her a ton. She also opens way too much. Like, her VPIP is like 65%, and she probably raises 35% of the time, 30% of the time. So I am 3-betting her a ton, and I'm 3-betting her very wide with some weak value hands. I mean, I'm 3-betting her with King Jack, King Queen, Queen Jack, Ace 9, because I know how wide she's opening, and I also know that she calls. She always calls, and she almost never 4-bets. In fact, I got her in a hand earlier on where I actually raised her with King Queen, 3-better with King Queen. She flatted with queens. So, it's just a really great situation. Anyway, Squishy comes to the table, and I was doing great. I was probably up like, $1,100 at the time. Squishy sits down. He has about $1,200 in front of him, and she opens. I 3-bet. Squishy, out of the blind, 4-bets me. Now, he had been there for a while, and he had seen me 3-bet her at least 2 or 3 times in no short order. And I know that he knows what I'm doing. Now, it's funny because, it's a matter of what level we're on, because I should know that he knows I know what he's up to. But I'm fairly certain that he knows that I'm ISOing pretty light here, and that because of that, he can 4-bet pretty light. I mean, in fact, he probably should be. He should have some 4-bet bluffs in there. And I would not hate 4-betting some of, expanding his value range a little bit to include hands like Ace Queen and stuff like that. Just because I'm 3-betting so light. Anyway, so he 4-bets me. She gets out of the way, comes back over to me. I have Ace King of clubs. So all this is going through my head. So the original bet raise was like 25. I made it 75. He made it 230. I think that's the right sizing. He has about $1,000 behind, maybe $990 behind after the 230. And I'm trying to think of the best way to play this hand. And he and I got into a really long text conversation last night. Our stacks are not deep enough for me to 5-bet bluff. Generally speaking, if I can't 5-bet bluff, I don't really want to have a value range here. Now, it doesn't mean I can't 5-bet bluff and go with it, which I can. I mean, if I think he's light, I can 5-bet bluff with Ace 5. It's just one of those things where I can't 5-bet fold, I should say. Let's go back 20 seconds. I can 5-bet bluff, but I can't 5-bet fold. So whatever hand I'm going with here, Because once he makes it 230, maybe I can make it 550, but I can't fold to a shove anyway. There's just no way. I've got too much money in the pot. I'm going to be getting too good a price. So if I'm not 5-bet bluffing, I probably shouldn't have a 5-bet value range. But I am occasionally 5-bet bluffing. Occasionally, if I decided to ISO her with a hand like King Queen offsuit, I might be able to actually 5-bet shove that or 5-bet that and call off simply because I've got blockers to kings and queens. He's going to call me with Ace King. He's going to call me with aces. But, maybe I get Ace Queen to fold. And maybe he's bluffing. I still think there's a really good chance that he is bluffing too. Squishy Tomato is an aggressive player. He's one of the few players at Hustler that kind of battle with me. He and there's a couple of Brazilians that will get into 3-bet and 4-bet wars occasionally. The rest, basically everybody else at Hustler is fairly passive. So, I'm very aware of the fact that, Squishy Tomato's 4-bet in this spot does not mean what a 4-bet from another player means. Now, on the same side, though, if I think that Squishy is bluffing occasionally, do I want to call sometimes and just keep his bluffs in? Because keep in mind, when I shove or when I 5-bet and commit myself, either way, when I'm called, I'm not in great shape. You know what I mean? I just can't be in good shape. Maybe, I don't think Ace Queen even goes. Like, if he decided to 4-bet with Ace Queen, he's probably folding that. I don't know what he's doing with jacks. My guess is if he's 4-betting with jacks, he's probably going with it. I don't know if he's 4-betting 10s or 9s. It really depends on how polar he is with his 4-bets. I would imagine he wouldn't be that polarized because my 3-bets, I'm 3-betting really wide. So I would think that he would not be that polar. But, if he decided to, 4-bet Ace-Jack or Ace-10 or Ace-5, he's folding those hands. But then again, the pot is already over $300. It's already 60 bigs in there. Is there merit to just taking it down pre? And I'm not gonna lie. I still don't know what the right answer is. Let's go to the chat and see what you guys say. Darth says 5-bet that clown. Peter O'Neill says, I agree we should jam. Darth says over jam as he might call it ace queen, thinking you are messing with him. Yeah, I mean that dynamic is all very present in this hand. I went back and forth on it, and I decided that with ace king of clubs, two things here. Number one, I want to make sure that I realize my full equity. You know, what do I do on a flop that's like 9-7-3 with one club? Am I just folding? I can't do that. Am I calling two streets? Am I calling one street? Now, I mean, I love the fact that I'm playing this hand in position, and that's a huge advantage for me in the hand, and I don't want to take that away, but I want to make sure that I can realize my equity in the hand, having ace, queen, and king of clubs. And I also, is there merit to denying my opponent his equity? Remember, I have ace, king, clubs. No matter what he has, no matter what, he has equity versus me. And probably at least like 30%. Claudio says call the whole range. You know? You know, and I went back and forth with Squishy because we talked about it last night. I hate five betting in spots. I hate raising in spots where when you're called, you hate it. It's like basically, you know, it goes back to the old, my epiphany statement that I heard many years ago, which was, you know, why are we putting money in the pot? To get value from worse or to get better to fold? Well, generally speaking, if I'm 5-betting ace, king of clubs, I'm probably not going to get better to fold. Maybe I get 10s to fold. And I'm probably not going to get called by worse. But there are spots in tournaments where there's a ton of value in just taking the pot down. So I kind of went back and forth, and I don't know. I mean, like I said, I just don't know if it's the right play or not. I decided to shove. I actually decided to 5-bet to like $700 or $650 or whatever it was. I don't really know why Squish even tanked. But when he tanked, he kind of like... He tanked, making me think, okay, maybe he's got ace-king or ace-queen or queens or jacks or something like that. But he tanked. He moved all in. Obviously, I'm not folding. He had aces. And flop was queen, queen, 4, I believe. I know it was 2 queens with 1 club. Turn was the 10 of clubs, which is such a good card for me now because I can get to jack or a club. And the river was a deuce of clubs, giving me the flush. And I stacked Squishy. It happens. Like I said, maybe a little bit of an overplay with ace-king of clubs. I think against most players, I'm probably just flatting. Squish does that to you. He's aggressive enough that he can kind of push you over the edge and make you do things that you might not normally do. Helio Duarte says, I agree with Claudio. In position, I call with most of my range, but I play with a lower variance. And I think, you know what? I mean, the more I think about it when I talk to Squish, when I talk to Tomato about it, that's probably the better play. The only thing I'm wondering is, you know, with over $300 in the pot, with over 60 bigs in the pot already, is there value to flatting with ace-king clubs? I'm sorry, is there value to 5-betting ace-king clubs and denying Squishy Tomato his equity in the pot? I don't know. I mean, the funny thing is, had I flatted, I'd probably win the hand anyway. Because if I flat, he puts a small c-bet out there on a queen, queen, 4 board. I can't fold. Turns a 10 of clubs, which is just such a great card for me. He may check the turn. To be honest with you, he may even check the flop. You know what I mean? Thinking that his hand is not strong enough to get 3 streets. I don't know. He said to me that he would bet small flop, bet 3/4 pot turn, and then shove river. I don't know. When I flat, and then I flat on a queen, queen, 4 board, and then a 10 comes off, he's got to be a little bit wary. He might have checked turn. So I'm in all likelihood, I'm probably getting to the river no matter what, and he's going to lose the hand no matter what. And that's poker, obviously. It happens to the best of us. Obviously, we've all been on both sides of that. So, anyway, that was the hand. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. That is it for us, though. Thanks so much for calling in. Next week, reminder: Dan Fleischman will be here with, and we will be talking lots of cryptocurrency. We're going to talk poker also. We'll talk a little football, but a ton of cryptocurrency. We will have. I know somebody put up on the Crush Live Poker forums a fantasy football thread that I don't know if you have good questions, throw them in there and I can always address them. I play a ton of fantasy football. I do very well playing fantasy football, and I'm in a lot of leagues. I'll talk about that next week or the week after, either way. Anyway, guys, once again, thank you so much for joining us. All the love in the world to you guys. I will talk to you very shortly. Oh, by the way, just a reminder, we'll do it over Thunderstruck. Just a reminder, Friday morning, I've got a new Crush Live Poker video coming up. It is part 2 of, what exactly is it here? It is part 2 of From a Hero's Perspective. Bart did part 1 last week, so this is part 2 of From a Hero's Perspective. I kind of liked it. Let me know what you think. Again, you can tweet me at Tuchman Sports, send me direct messages anywhere, or email me at davidt@crushlivepoker.com. Next week, we're back at it. And, of course, if you want 1 month free over at crushlivepoker.com, use the code DTA408. Guys, I love you. My next Live at the Bike show is August 22nd with Bart. Cheers.